Hey, what's up my fellow golf ball addicts? We have another review for you today and we are diving into the Oncore Elixr golf ball. Let's dive right in. Okay, so I just got done reviewing the Vero X1. I had originally intended on the Elixr actually being before that, but there was a small issue with shooting. You know, a little schedule got mixed up, so we kind of had to switch them, but no big deal. I did test the Vero X1. The Vero X1, of course, was supposed to be for a little bit faster swingers, and I was actually kind of surprised how well it tested. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it had a very good performance. It actually was a lot better than I expected, and since that golf ball is intended for way faster swingers, and the Elixr is actually intended for about 85, 95, somewhere in there. You know, it's more of the mid-swing, average swing golf ball. I actually expect this one to do a little bit better. I have tested it before on my channel. It tested pretty well, but this is the new 2022 version. I tested the 21 version, so it's been a few years. It's definitely due for an update. But yeah, it should have been reviewed probably last year, but I'm really excited to get this retested. A lot of people like this golf ball, so I'm interested to see how it does. Now, Oncore is a great company. They've been doing a lot of great things. They were one of the first innovators when it came to the direct-to-consumer market. I kind of put them right there with Vice. I put them right there with Cut. They were one of the OGs really in the game to do it. So I have a lot of respect for them. You know, whether their golf ball is good or bad, I know they're trying to get better, and I feel like they've been doing this for a long time. They helped kind of create this market. So a lot of love for Oncore. So far, I tested the Avant 55, and it did really, really well for a two-piece golf ball. You can definitely check that review out. And then they actually have now, they're doing this thing where they're basically, I think they're experimenting. So they used to have the Avant 55 and the Elixr. Now all of a sudden it's the Vero X1 that came out a year or two ago. Then it's the Vero X2. Now getting ready to come out either later this year, maybe next year, the Vero XP. So they're doing a lot of experimenting. They're trying different golf balls, and I really respect that because they're basically saying, hey, we know there's a lot of competition out there. We need to try new stuff. We need to see what works. We need to see what fails. So the Vero X1 was definitely a pleasant surprise as far as how well it performed despite my swing speed, which is 92, 93 mile an hour with the driver, which is average for the male in the world. That's exactly what the average is. So I'm interested to see how this golf ball performs. I expect it to perform better. I mean, it's supposed to be meant for my swing speed. It comes in at a price point of $30 a dozen, but there is $8 shipping on top of that. But, you know, another thing that Oncore does that I think is unique, it's different, is they offer a membership club. So let's say you play an Oncore golf ball and you really like it a lot. You can actually pay for a yearly subscription to basically make it to where your shipping becomes free. You get, 25, 15% off golf balls, apparel, all kinds of stuff, which means that if you decide, hey, I really like Oncore golf balls, the value increases even more. And this is something I haven't seen from a lot of golf ball companies. It's definitely new, it's unique. And again, I just have to give Oncore credit there because they're trying new stuff. They're doing a lot of innovative things, so I'm going to give them a little more slack than maybe I would give some other golf balls. However, let's dive into this specific one, the Elixr, 3-piece, urethane, direct-to-consumer golf ball, 30 a dozen, like I said, 38. If you're a part of Oncore, you can get it for a little bit cheaper than that even, but let's just assume for all purposes right now it's around the 35 range, because again, 30, it's a great price point at 30, but if you add that $8 shipping, again, that's kind of ticky-tacky, because if you order a bunch of them, you can get the shipping for free, but I have to kind of review this golf ball based on, hey, I want to try 1 dozen of them. Well, if you're going to try 1 dozen of them, you have to pay the shipping. You know what I mean? So it gets kind of ticky-tacky. So let's just say 35 a dozen. It's an okay price point. At the 30, it's pretty good. So let's see how these numbers are. But before that, let's dive into the design of the golf ball. Now, I like Oncore's logo. It's very maybe homey for me because I've seen it so much. And when I started this channel, I had it. But there's been a lot of feedback from you guys that tell me you don't like it. It looks very novelty and cheap. So I guess it's kind of this. So maybe there is some things Oncore could do. Maybe a redesign of maybe like an O and a C or something like that would be a little more simplistic, a little more minimalist, yeah, as the young kids would say, but maybe something like that to kind of make it a little different, because although I do like the design of the logo, a lot of you have told me you don't, so maybe it's kind of a 50-50 thing there. Now going on the side there, I will say that the Elixr alignment tool is a lot better than like the Vero X1 alignment tool, because the Vero X1 has a, I guess you would call it abnormal, it's not symmetrical. It's definitely obtuse. You got the X in there. It definitely just makes it harder to line your golf ball up, whereas this one has that nice thick arrow line. And if I put it up here, you can kind of see it. So it actually is a good alignment tool. It looks premium. It feels premium. It doesn't feel super premium. It definitely does look a little cheap, but you can tell it's urethane. So I think it does have a good coating on there. It's nice and thick. Hopefully that durability will hold up well also. So yeah, I mean, it passes that. It looks good. It feels good. So let's get out to the chipping and putting green. Let's see how we did out there. All right, so unfortunately, it didn't exactly check up as much as I would have liked it to, but it actually still checked up pretty decent. I mean, it's definitely below average. I expected with it being a little bit lower compression to have, I've had a lot more luck, believe it or not, with 3-piece softer golf balls opposed to your 4-piece firmers. Those are actually a lot more spin once you get back a little bit, like 20 yards, 30 yards when you're doing a pitch, because you have to have the swing speed to kind of match it. Unfortunately, until you get to that point, having these softer golf balls around the green, 85 compression, 80, I've done a couple that were even 75, those seem to spin a lot more. I get a little bit better just because it squishes them and it allows it to really get in those grooves and spin back. This one I just didn't have that much luck with, excuse me. I think once you get around the green, you get a little bit off 10 yards, 15 yards, you'll be just fine. But if you're wanting that checkup just right around the green, I have tested golf balls a little bit better. Now it does feel good. It has a nice little click to it. It's great for feedback. I love it when you hit a solid hit. It has a great sound to it. It actually feels really soft. There's just a slight firm press as far as your hands. I think a lot of people are going to really like how it feels, and I think a lot of people are going to like how it reacts around the green. If there's one thing I could say, hey, Oncore, do a little improvement on, it would be the spin a little bit. But overall, it's not bad with the wedge. Let's dive into the putter. Let's see if it's any good there. Dang it. You know what? I wish I'd had a little bit more luck with the putter, but there's a couple things that kind of concern me. The first one is it doesn't feel that great. I mean, it doesn't necessarily feel terrible. I've had some golf balls that have a really horrendous feel to them. That's not the case here. It just doesn't feel buttery. It doesn't feel smooth. It's very mediocre, to be honest with you. It's right in between, which again, you know, Oncore has this really long line of golf balls, and I expect the Elixr to kind of be in my sweet spot. I'm an average swing golfer. This is an average swing golf ball. I expect it to be kind of what the doctor ordered for my game specifically, and I just, so far, I'm like, gosh, I don't really care. I mean, the wedge isn't bad. It was okay. It was good. It wasn't great. But with the putter, basically, I'm not a fan of the feel, and the roll actually wasn't very true either. It actually feels like there's a lot of chug effect. If you're new to the channel, chug effect is essentially when the golf ball has a little more compression, and what happens is you putt it with like a mallet putter like I have, and essentially you can kind of see the golf ball, you know, kind of squeeze up a little bit and take off, and then it kind of comes back a little bit, and that'll happen. You get a really, really soft golf ball and you hit it with a putter, it'll initially come off the putter really hot, and then it'll kind of chug back a little bit, and when you don't get that true roll, sometimes it can add a little bit of unforgiveness to your putting game to where you have trouble with the distances. My case wasn't as much the distance as it was I just hated how it felt, and I hated how it rolled off, and I hated how it sounded, and I don't know, I just wasn't a big fan. I've tested a lot of golf balls. I've experienced a lot of great sounds, good rolls, bad rolls, and this just wouldn't tickle my fancy. Now, there are some golfers out there that might like this kind of thing. Maybe you don't care as much as I do, but it really bothers me around the green. Hopefully the numbers are good, because honestly, I don't see myself using this golf ball around the green at all. Now, I will give a shout out to the alignment tool. It's not great, but I was actually using it to line up my putts a little bit, and it actually was pretty decent, so I give it some credit there. But let's get into these numbers now, because the greenside performance was just okay. I was expecting a little bit more, because again, I was hoping this was right in my wheelhouse, so maybe those performance numbers will be. So let's dive into those. All right, so yeah, again, I mean, it feels soft. It doesn't feel super bouncy ballish, but it does have this kind of soft feel when you hit it, and you can tell when it really springs off the club. It does provide some pretty good feedback, and it's fun to hit. A lot of golf balls now, you know, they may sound good, you know, they may feel good, but they're not very fun to hit. This golf ball has kind of a unique feeling where it's kind of fun to hit. And stay tuned, because the Vero X1 was really fun to hit, and I don't want to give anything away yet, but the X2 and the XP might even take that a step further, but that's just a little insight from me, so don't tell anyone I told you. Let's get into these numbers now, and let's dive in. So with the 9-iron, we are looking at 91.5 on your ball mile per hour speed. That is right in line with average, so there's nothing wrong with that. 125.9, right in line with average. Yeah, right in line with average with your carry as well. And then as far as now that's really, really interesting. So as far as the carry, that is super, super, super low. Now, before you immediately, if this is your first time on the channel, before you're like, oh, this guy just doesn't know how to hit a golf ball, No, I've tested like 95 of them. I'm pretty consistent with my numbers. I'm pretty good with them. 18.6 almost seems comical. Like my average is 22.6. So this golf ball wants to launch low. It wants to launch really low with my swing speed, which is kind of a shame because I actually got average numbers. I almost feel like if I had gotten a little more height, I would have gotten a little more distance. I'd have let the ball carry a little bit more. But overall, those aren't bad. I'm not going to let it affect anything yet. The numbers are good. They're all within average. That's fine. Let's see how the 7-iron is. Now that we're swinging a little faster and we're compressing a little more, let's see if it's better. Starting with the spin, we are looking at 6,442, which is just slightly above average, so that's awesome. It's going to stop on a green. 105.1 though, that's a little disappointing. That's less than my average. 157.4, that's definitely less than my average by about 3 yards. 145.3, lower than average, and kind of funny there, but the launch angle was exactly the same as the 9-iron, which, again, I know if you're new to the channel, you might be looking at me like, okay, this guy's a clown, but I promise you that that's not normal. I mean, the majority of golf balls are 24, 25, 26 degree with the 9-iron. Now, here's the thing. 18.6 with the 7-iron, or yeah, 18.6 with the 7-iron is actually average. That's my average. But it's weird that the 9-iron and the 7-iron are launching the same. So, you know, those 9-iron numbers we'll take with a grain of salt. We'll see how, you know, the rest of the numbers perform. But those numbers are a little disappointing. I did lose a couple yards. And that's disappointing because I just tested the X1, the Vero X1, and its numbers were actually better. I gained some distance. And that golf ball is intended for way faster swing speeds than I'm swinging it. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, okay, well, if that golf ball is intended for faster swing speeds and I got better numbers with it, and this one's supposed to be right in my wheelhouse, you know, the average golfer's wheelhouse, and it's not performing, maybe some of this new testing they're doing is to try to figure out what works, because maybe the Elixr just wasn't holding up as well as it used to. Don't know for certain, but it is a possibility. Let's dive into the 5 hybrid. Let's see how these numbers are. 42.84 on your spin, which is right in line with average. 119.6. So, okay, there you go. That's pretty good. 198. Yeah, I gained about 6 yards, so that's awesome. 184.5. And this actually launched high at 15.3. Those numbers are a lot better. I like those numbers really well. Now that I'm using a wood, you know, it's a hybrid, so wood iron. It's compressing a little bit better. I got a little more forgiveness maybe, and the golf balls were starting to perform a lot better. So I almost wonder if this golf ball actually, despite its compression number, maybe was performing better for really fast swingers, and maybe that's why Oncore kind of took a step back and said, okay, we wanted it to be for 85 to 95, but it's actually performing like 90 to 100. Maybe that's why they're experimenting. Again, I don't know that for certain. I'm just guessing. But now these numbers are getting better, and I lost distance with the 9-iron. Well, not the 9-iron, it was average, but with the 7-iron. And usually only that happens when you get into the 4-piece golf balls. If I have a 4-piece firmer golf ball, that's when I start to lose numbers with the 9-iron. I lose numbers with the 7-iron. And then I get to the, you know, hybrid and the driver, and I perform great because I'm actually compressing it. So that does kind of make me wonder if that's the case there. But let's get into the driver numbers. Let's see how we finished here. 2,852 on the spin, 250 on your, okay, now hold on a second. Whoa. Average spin, 250 is like the pinnacle of what I'm looking for. When I am hitting the driver and I see that 250 mark on total distance, that means we're talking business now, because driver, most of the time, my average with the driver is actually 242.6. So 250 is like, holy cow, I'm going to be striping some fair, I'm going to hit some bombs. So 250 is remarkable. I love to see that. Diving right back in, 136.7 is phenomenal. You know, another extra 3 mile an hour. 229.5, gained 7.5 yards of carry, and it launched at 15.4, which was a little higher. So that's interesting there. So again, it kind of goes to, I mentioned it during the greed sign performance, it just wasn't reacting the way I thought it would. I am seriously starting to question that maybe this golf ball is intended for a little faster swing speeds. Maybe the intent Oncore when they came out with it was, hey, we want it to be for average swing speeds, slow swing speeds, you know, your mid, and maybe it just didn't perform that way. Maybe it was more tailored to the average to fast crowd, which that's fine. But, you know, unfortunately, you pour all this money into marketing and then it doesn't work out and you're like, oh, we need to reroute. So I don't know. I don't know the 100%. I haven't reached out to Oncore, but what I do know is that, you know, when I got to the driver, really phenomenal numbers. When I got to the hybrid, really good numbers. 7-iron, 9-iron, they're just okay, you know. So I would question whether or not a slow swinger could really use it efficiently. All right, so before I get into my final thoughts, let's look at the durability here. You know, as you can see by looking at it again, you're going to see some minor tearing, some minor scuffs. If you feel it, you can kind of feel them. It's a 4 out of 5 on durability. It's not bad. You know, honestly, when you're looking for a value golf ball, the majority of the time you're going to want something that's value because you're going to be losing a lot of them anyway. So I think that by this lasting a whole round, which I think it will, this is after about 60 shots, a lot of wedge shots around the green. I think that this is going to last you a whole round for sure. And the majority of golfers, that's going to work really perfect. The lasting a whole round is what most golfers would want a golf ball to do, because most golfers aren't going to get through a round. So I got to say, it's really good. 4 out of 5. It isn't perfect. It's not as great as some of the other ones I've tested, but it's pretty darn good. So I got to say it passes the test. All right, so final thoughts. Who's the golf ball for? Oh, goodness. It's tough. I love Oncore. I love what they're doing. You know, I don't want to give anything away with my further testing, but I will say this. The Elixr, I think, is a golf ball that eventually Oncore will be moving on from. That's just a guess. I don't know. I think what happened is I think Oncore made the Elixr. I think they really went hard as advertising it as your average Joe golf ball. And I think they realized, you know, it performs really well for faster swingers, but for okay swingers, mid swingers, it just doesn't do as well. That's where the slow swinger... Now, don't get me wrong. The Avant 55 is a great golf ball. If you're someone who's a beginner, intermediate player, you swing, you know, anywhere between 75 and 95, the Avant 55 is really good, and it's priced at 20 bucks a dozen. So it's really a good value. I loved it. Be sure to check out that review as well. Now, going into this golf ball, you go up in price, you get an extra layer, you get a little more money, you get urethane coating, but I just wasn't super impressed with the short to mid irons. Now, the 9-iron numbers, I could overlook that. They're average, they're great, but once you get into the 7-iron and you're losing distance, that would make me question, okay, am I going to lose distance with my 8-iron? Am I going to lose distance with my 6-iron? You know, that whole range now becomes cloudy. And at this point in the channel, there's been a lot of golf balls that have just performed a lot better. So I think that this golf ball is good, not great. It makes me wonder. It makes me wonder where it really falls. I think it's a good golf ball. I think that a lot of people are going to really like it. If you can snag it for the 30 a dozen, I think it's worth a try. 35 a dozen if you have to pay the shipping. Probably not, because I'll be honest with you, like the Strixon Q-Star, Q-Star Divide, Q-Star Divide, or I'm sorry, Q-Star Tour, Q-Star Tour Divide. Sorry, those would confuse me. Those golf balls are phenomenal, and I think that those are 32, 33 a dozen. You can pick them up from Walmart. You can pick them up from Dick's, PGA Superstore. They're a lot more accessible, and they perform just as well and actually a little bit better than this golf ball. But if you're an Oncore fan, there's a market here. They're onto something. They're close. And again, I don't want to give anything away, but I've tested their whole line of golf balls at this point, and they're doing some really cool things. So don't sleep on Oncore. Please continue to watch these reviews because there's going to be some good stuff coming out. I love Oncore and I love what they're doing. So keep checking them out, guys. This one may not be the perfect score, but that doesn't mean that the Vero X2 might not be or the XP might be. But other than that, guys, I appreciate it as always. Keep watching, to keep saving and keep learning. Until next time.